In 2001, Kansai Airport was recognized as one of the 10 monuments that had the greatest positive impact on life in the 20th century by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Billions of dollars and thousands of hours were spent planning and building one of Japan's largest airports. But if we look at the project today, it faces a huge problem. The airport is sinking, and faster than expected. Hey, I'm your host Regis, and today we'll explore why Kansai Airport is sinking in the first place, and whether or not it can be saved. As you might already know, Japan is extremely vulnerable to natural disasters like earthquakes, tsunamis, and typhoons. The island nation sits across not one, not two, not three, but 4 major tectonic plates, making it one of the most seismically active places on the entire planet. The Kansai region, situated in the south-central area of the country, is uncomfortably close to where 3 of those tectonic plates merge with each other. But this constant threat of catastrophe wasn't the main concern back in the 1960s. Back then, Kansai wasn't doing too well because it was losing out on business, trade, and development to the rapidly expanding Tokyo region. Kansai's economy, and in particular, those of its major cities Osaka and Kobe, was in desperate need of a boost. So government officials proposed the construction of a second airport to complement the region's only airport, the Osaka International Airport. This airport was situated right in the heart of a residential district. Now, in theory, it was possible to simply expand it by demolishing surrounding buildings, but the Japanese government had already tried this before in Tokyo, and it had gone terribly wrong. Because when they tried to make space for the planned Narita Airport in the Narita suburb of Tokyo in the 1960s, they confiscated local farmland, resulting in violent protests, deaths, and a decade-long construction delay. Because of this, the expansion of Osaka International Airport was just not considered a workable option here. Demands for another airport were further accelerated when extremely loud jet engine aircraft began to use the runways in Osaka. In response, sleep-deprived local residents sued the government for noise disturbances. In the end, it was decided that a sea location was best. It wouldn't require unpopular land seizures, and it was far away from any residential area, meaning that it could be open 24/7. Eventually, in 1974, a site situated 5 kilometers off the coast of the Senshu Prefecture in Osaka Bay, with a depth of approximately 18 meters, was chosen. But it would take another 13 years for the project to actually get underway. Seabed surveys, aircraft flight studies, and seabed improvement experiments had to be done first. Plus, the Japanese government, you guessed it, faced backlash from local residents in the area. In 1985, meetings were held with nearby residents with the aim of explaining the project to them. It was here that native fishermen warned that the airport would divert fish away from Osaka Bay and threaten their livelihoods. Some of the more radical demonstrators would even go so far as to launch mortar and arson attacks on the quarries where reclamation material was being gathered. Thankfully, though, the issue was peacefully resolved when the Japanese government awarded these residents significant compensation. 7 months after this, work on an access bridge that would connect the airport to the mainland commenced. Initially, Kansai Airport was expected to cost $14 billion, but by 2008, this had risen to $20 billion. This was because from 1999 onwards, a second artificial island and runway were built to meet an increasing demand for more flights. On top of that, a lot of money was spent on keeping it from sinking underwater, but we'll see soon enough if that actually worked. When managing a massive construction project like Kansai Airport, having the right tools for the job is essential. The same goes for your online experience, and that's where today's sponsor, Opera Browser, comes in. With its suite of powerful tools, Opera helps you stay organized and boosts your efficiency while browsing. A massive time saver is Opera's built-in AI feature called Aria. With Aria's command line, we can ask any question at any time. Just hit Control/ or Command/ and we get answers without even needing to switch tabs. While we're doing research for this video, for example, Aria's page context mode can instantly summarize long articles and extract key details. Aria also has a built-in image generator. By simply entering a prompt, Aria creates an image from scratch and brings ideas to life. On top of that, with Aria's image recognition, we can easily upload images and get detailed information or context about the images. Perfect for finding additional answers for our research. But that's not all. Do you always have too many tabs opened? With Opera's Tab Island feature, this won't be an issue anymore. You can group your tabs by context and save space, and you can expand and collapse each island. And when you need to multitask, this video pop-out lets you keep watching videos while browsing other websites. And you can also access music and social media in this sidebar. This way, you got everything in one place. Try it out. Opera's browser is free to use. You can download Opera using our link in the description below. Construction of this ambitious megaproject was already a tough challenge, and the engineers had actually already expected it to sink. For both islands, the biggest challenge was to make sure that the seabed underneath was sturdy enough to act as a foundation. See, the seafloor around Kansai Airport is mainly composed of alternating layers of sand and a kind of loose clay called alluvial clay. When weight is added onto it, water is squeezed out of it, causing it to shrink. So it kind of makes sense that anything resting on top of this, like, I don't know, a massive airport, would naturally sink with it. So the only way that Kansai Airport could be built over such a layer is to drain as much liquid out as possible before construction. By doing so, the clay compresses and hardens, and the rate of settlement, or how fast it sinks, is slowed down considerably. Okay, so great theory, but how did they actually do it? By installing millions of tightly packed vertical sand drains. In essence, these are deep holes drilled into the clay that are then filled with sand. Before they're set up though, a sand blanket or a preload must first be deposited on the seabed. This connects all the sand drains together in one drainage layer and provides the heavy weight required to compress the clay so that the moisture is able to move sideways. When water reaches the sand column, it's then transferred up to the surface and directed away. This is precisely what was done for Kansai Airport. The process began with the laying down of a 1.5 meter thick sand blanket in preparation for the vertical sand drains. This was achieved through two different methods. The first was to spray sand on the seafloor using a pump, and the second was to transfer the sand down to the bottom of Osaka Bay via an underwater pipe. After this, about 1 million vertical sand drains were laid for Island 1, while an estimated 1.2 million were set up for Island 2. In the third phase, a seawall that outlined the borders of the islands was gradually built up. The main purpose of this was to protect Kansai Airport against enormous waves caused by natural disasters. The result was a seawall anticipated to be so strong that it could theoretically survive waves as high as 3.5 meters, crashing into it every 6 seconds for 50 years straight. I would not want to be caught in that storm. Good lord. A section of that seawall was left purposely open in preparation for land reclamation. Insane amounts of material was gathered from these 3 mountains nearby. Initially, land reclamation was carried out by barges, which raised the elevation from 18 meters below sea level to 9.5 meters above. Finally, convoys of trucks placed the last layer down, rollers compacted the mound, and airport infrastructure was laid over above. In September 1994, Kansai Airport opened to the public to much fanfare. By 1999, however, it had been established that it was sinking much faster than expected. So fast, in fact, that emergency measures to save it had to be immediately implemented. But after all this hard work, how could this have happened? Well, at the beginning, engineers predicted that Island 1 would sink by 5.7 to 7.6 meters over the course of 50 years. This meant that it would eventually stabilize at an elevation of 4 meters above sea level, which is the minimum height needed to stop severe flooding from occurring. Unfortunately though, they made a big mistake in their calculations. Instead of taking the worst case scenario into account, the project was planned around the lowest estimated predictions. In other words, if the sink rate was faster than expected, the elevation of the airport would dip below the 4-meter safety threshold. As you can probably guess, this is exactly what happened. The full impact of this misjudgment would only become apparent a few years later in 1999. At that time, it was discovered that Island 1 had plummeted by 8.2 meters, 3 times more than what had been expected. More specifically, it was also established that the sinking was happening mainly in a specific clay layer. Even more threatening was the fact that different parts of the airport were sinking at different rates. Think about it. The reality was that some structures were losing elevation faster than others. This makes them vulnerable to warping. So to fight against this, strong concrete bases that reached all the way down to the seabed level were installed underneath every building. Known as raft foundations, they help spread weight evenly over a large area to prevent sinking. Another corrective action taken was to further compact the 30-meter deep reclaimed layer. This ensures that looser material like sand doesn't shift during earthquakes, which can accelerate settlement. But none of these procedures were sufficient enough to fix the worst affected area, the passenger terminal beginning at the center of Island 1. Because it had a basement, this structure was a lot lighter than the wings on either side of it. As a result, the wings were sinking at a much faster rate than the main building. This led to the fitting of jacks beneath each of the 900 pillars that supported the entire terminal. Every few years, the rate of settlement is recorded automatically, and selected pillars are adjusted to ensure that the complex remains flat. Okay, but with all these countermeasures in place, what is the current status of the Kansai Airport, and can it be saved? To tell you the truth, it's not looking great in the long term. As of December of 2023, parts of Island 1 have sunk by just over 13 meters since the beginning of construction. That's 50% greater than what was predicted at the end of the 1990s. Island 2 is also anticipated to sink below the required 4 meters above sea level within the next decade or so. Even worse, rising sea levels will likely exacerbate the current issue further. Right now, the latest estimate is that by the year 2056, the airport could be totally submerged. Now, the predictions are so pessimistic because engineers are still searching for an effective method to tackle the settlement problem. As of mid-2024, the Kansai Airport website states that studies are still needed to determine which parts of the clay layer are sinking and whether the settlement is actually going to stop or not. And in the face of that issue, the airport is still expanding. Because, simply put, they have to. In all of this talk about engineering, it's easy to forget that Kansai Airport is still a fully operational airport, and that 2056 is a long way into the future. Like any business, its main objective is to make its customers as satisfied as possible. In recent years, for example, the airport has seen a rise in flight congestion that means it has no other choice but to expand its international terminal. Equally, with record numbers of passengers reported this year, necessary steps have to be taken to avoid overcrowding and to streamline the visitor experience at the airport. Now, airport management has definitely stayed optimistic, and their ongoing engineering efforts ensure that the airport remains functional despite the constant stinking. If we're being honest, unless a miracle happens or future studies reveal a workable strategy, it's highly likely that Kansai Airport will meet a watery end sometime this century. And even though the operation might have to stop at some point in the next decade, the whole story definitely does have a positive side to it. Other airports on artificial islands around the world have taken valuable lessons from Kansai Airport. Take the nearby Kobe Airport, for example. It's much smaller, and by the time of construction in 1999, they could already benefit from improved engineering techniques. Or take the Hong Kong International Airport. Between 8 to 15 meters of the same type of loose material that had made settlement worse at Kansai Airport was entirely removed here. By taking this precaution, it's been able to stay stable and far above sea level. But okay, we want to know, what's your opinion on airports on artificial islands? Do you think it was a smart idea to build Kansai Airport in this location? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, we'd appreciate it a lot if you would subscribe to MegaBuilds. This helps us a lot when we upload new videos. You have no idea. Once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.